why do we sometimes just not feel God? Sometimes we don't feel God's presence just because we don't know Him. We don't know God. It's hard to have an intimate relationship with somebody you've not received into your life. It's hard to walk with someone that you don't know. John chapter 7, verses 28 and 29. Jesus is at a festival called the Festival of Tabernacles. And what that is it's a feast that Jews celebrate even today. And they celebrate it in the fall, September, October. And it commemorates the 40 years that the Israelites were in the wilderness wandering. And they lived in tents. That's what tabernacles means. It's a tent. And they actually still do that today. Sometimes they'll live in some kind of a structure like that for a season while they celebrate this. But it commemorates how God took care of them during that 40-year period. And so these are people that Jesus is talking to who are religious, if you will, with quotes. They've been raised in the faith. They've been taught the truths, and they've come to Jerusalem to celebrate this. And yet Jesus says to them here in this conversation, you don't know Him. You don't know Him. You don't know God. You've got all kinds of religious background, but you don't know God. You haven't surrendered your life to Him. He says, but I know Him because I am from Him and He sent me. Powerful. Now, let me just bring it right down to the gospel and to today and to the New Testament message. If you've never received Jesus as your Lord and Savior, then you might be a really great person. You might be a really wonderful church attender. You might have a history here in this church of serving and being part of things and have wonderful memories, and that's great. But if you haven't personally accepted Christ as your Lord and as your Savior, then you don't know Him. And it's hard to know His presence in your life if you haven't made Him Lord and made Him Savior.